Hey yo, how's everybody doing? How's everyone doing? Got one in a live stream, so let's see if that number picks up because we're gonna hit the ground running. And I know I said that last time. Actually, we did hit the ground running when we did the live stream yesterday, and we cooked Mr. Bantu City Diaries. We're gonna cook him again today. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the stream. I hope that it works, but right now everybody's downstairs streaming something. So I don't know how my internet is gonna hold up, you know what I mean? But thank you for joining me, the 5 or 6 of you that are in this live stream. And yeah, shout out to Mr. Too Ernest. He says he's geeked to watch the stream. Hey, you're gonna enjoy this one. If you enjoyed yesterday's one, you're gonna enjoy this one. This guy is a charlatan. He's a charlatan and a disgrace. And I really don't feel any guilt about what I'm about to do to his channel. I'm gonna really enjoy making a bit of a sport out of going through whatever he decides to post next. And if he doesn't post anything new, I'll just go through his old stuff and debunk the crap, because he's been spreading a lot of poison. He's a liar, he's disingenuous, and I think I proved yesterday he also has very little subject knowledge in things that he likes to dive himself into, like the IQ study. There was nothing in that would hold water in the academic world. It was literally just a joke. His approach was a joke. His conclusions were a joke. His methodology was a joke. His sample size was a joke. Everything about it was a joke. But he's as grifters tend to be low effort individuals. They tend to like to be able to produce something with very little rigor, in the knowledge that their audience isn't there for the rigor. Their audience is there for the to have their stereotypes fulfilled. Yeah, they're there for the confirmation bias. That's the reason why they have an audience. Okay, so this video, we saw a glimpse of it yesterday. It's the one that where it says, why do other races find black people the least attractive? And then the title of it was, why are black people so ugly, or something along those lines. Why do other races find black people so ugly? And as you can see in my thumbnail, I was like, speak for yourself, mate. You wouldn't be the first Nigerian that I've met that is mesmerized by the sight of a white face. Respectfully, us black people born in the West, like myself, born in the UK, and my brothers and sisters born in America, and even to a lesser extent, but still exposure-wise, my brothers and sisters born in the Caribbean. There's none of this, you know, being mesmerized by white people. You know, they're just human beings like anybody else. I'm not going to sit here and trash them. That's not my calling card, and that certainly isn't my personality. But this whole idea of, oh, why do other races find us so attractive? I'm like, well, that's a you problem, first of all, buddy. That is certainly a you problem. Yeah, it's not an issue that I've ever suffered with. Okay, it's not a problem, you know, that people around me or black people around me have ever had a problem with. In fact, we'd tell you it's quite the reverse. And actually, it's not just me who would tell you it's quite the reverse. If you actually did the rigor and did the studies, which is something that you never seem to do, you seem to quote facts and pull them out of your ass without any kind of literary support, any kind of academic support, any kind of citation. You just say statistics and people just take them for granted. And I'm actually going to prove on this live stream that you're a consummate liar. You're a consummate liar. You lie frequently and you make stuff up. And actually, a lot of the stuff that you report on this particular study is the exact opposite of the truth, literally the direct opposite of the truth. So I'm going to destroy you today. I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be a brief destruction, and then I'm going to go downstairs and have my delayed late dinner. So let's just hit the ground running, guys. Appreciate having you here. Feel free to support the cause, show your support in the chat, send a super chat, send a donation, and I'll obviously highlight your comment. I don't think I'll open the panel today. So I know it says at the bottom, along here, it says, you know, rotating panel C, blah, blah, that won't be open. But obviously, do not let that hold you back from showing your support for the stream. Let's get cracking. All right, so why do other races find black people least attractive? Okay, that's his proposition here. Okay, and the thumbnail, as you've probably seen, also states, you know, why all races find black people ugly. That's a large claim. And if you're going to make a claim like that, then you're probably going to need to back it up with some kind of study. Let's read what he's wrote in his opening blurb, first of all, yeah, in his introduction. Okay, so why all races find black people ugly, regardless of whether someone is white, Hispanic, Latino, Arab, South Asian, Indian, Eurasian, East Asian, black people are considered the least attractive. This is false. It's not true. It's not backed up by any study. It's not backed up by any data. And I'm going to show you that this is false. This is something he just made up. Obviously, something he feels about himself. I'm not going to comment on his looks, but maybe he's been told he's ugly. I don't know. Even dark-skinned communities in Asia find black people less attractive. Well, that there is another loaded claim. But one of the things that he's touched on there is colorism in Asia, which is a huge issue. And this actually invalidates the first claim that he's made, because he's acted like the deference, or the kind of like, yeah, the negative perception of black people in Asia is linked to them just being black. But actually the racism in East Asia is actually projected to all dark communities, particularly Southeast Asians, who they are renownedly known to be racist towards. So it's got nothing to do with deficiencies within the black community. It's to do with self-hate that exists in East Asia. And by the way, I'm not just saying this, I will be backing this up with a study also, because all of these things are provable facts, which I'm going to prove with studies and citations. In this video, I explore why these attitudes exist, suggesting that the reasons go beyond skin color alone. Obviously, he's going to project the idea that it's due to some inherent black deficiencies that we're projecting. Yeah. Nevertheless, skin tone remains a significant factor, with lighter skin frequently held up as the global beauty standard. So we can't decide which argument he's arguing here. He's saying, well, skin tone's an issue, so it's colorism, but also black people are just super deficient, and so that doesn't help. So he's kind of arguing two-pronged. He doesn't care that the two arguments often overlap and often contradict, because there's no accuracy to the study. This is what you call a hack job. Okay, this is a video and a documentary, or whatever you want to call it. I can't call it a study because it's a joke, but this is a thing done in bad faith. None of this has been done in good faith, and none of this has been done with any level of, discretion. He hasn't approached this with, any level of rigor. We shouldn't take him seriously. But let's now jump into the content of the study. So the first thing that I'm going to do, and this is what a logical person would do, yeah, upon entering a question like this. He's made a bold claim here. Black people are the least attractive. So that should be something, if it's universal, like he says, across all races. He's mentioned Hispanics, Asians, Eurasians, East Asians, everybody. He said the entire globe finds black people unattractive. It should be the easiest thing to back up. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I can see my internet's looking a bit dodgy. But I hope the audio is coming through clearly. Let me know, please, in the comments if you're having any issues. So the first thing that I did is I wanted to find the studies, what the studies say about attractiveness across the races. Thank you very much, Kieran, for letting me know. So, good place to start, okay? Just to do a little study. And I want to show you what my search term was, okay? So I searched in Google, attractiveness by ethnicity study, okay? You can see there's no bias in that, guys. I didn't say, find me a study that proves black people Yeah, find me a study that proves black people are attractive. This, I didn't do any of that. I just said attractive by ethnicity study. Okay, that's me. That's how people who actually approach these topics without agenda, that's how they search. That's how they might, initially start their research or conduct their research. They're looking for, to withdraw themselves from any bias and to get the most, the closest thing to the truth. So let's read what this says. Okay, so this is a summary. Obviously, I'm not asking you, this is not a study in itself. This is a AI summary. So I'm not presenting this as an authority, but I'm just setting the scene as to the data that's available to the layman. Okay, scientific studies on attractiveness by ethnicity frequently highlight how gender, perceived masculinity/femininity, and genetic diversity, mixed race, influence ratings. Research often finds that these perceptions are not uniform across all groups, but are instead highly dependent on the sex of the person being rated. Now, I'm going to just scroll down, okay, to male attractiveness. You can see this here, male attractiveness. So this is the first kind of paragraph that's given me some feedback about the different groups. Top bullet point. Black men are frequently, the word has been used here, rated as the most attractive in several large-scale studies. So immediately, his entire study, his entire presentation has been falsified by a cursory search. I didn't even have to go deep. I literally put in the most objective search term there, attractiveness by ethnicity study, and the result instantly fed back to me. Black men are frequently rated as the most attractive in several large-scale studies. Now, let's continue going. This is often linked with higher perceived levels of masculinity, strength, and dominance. Now, I was already aware of this. If you go to my other channel, Down with the King, I actually have an interview with an evolutionary psychologist called Clive Granderson, who highlights this fact. Black men are, and pretty much for most of modern history, have been perceived as the most attractive because of their masculinity. If you look around culture, if you look around all the things and that you can read, let me see if I can find this book. Here it is. Let me just quickly grab this book for you. And this is a good book if you want to grab it for yourself. Oh, I'm making a mess here, dropping all my books. This is a good book if you want to grab it for yourself. It's called The Racial Hierarchy. Okay, and in this, he touches on the fact that due to Black people's, essentially their prowess in most verticals of life, in spite of our economic disadvantage, we always seem to present very well in the masculine verticals. So these are things like, sports. We do very well even when we're not given financial incentive or opportunity to do very well. We have a naturally masculine physique. We have confidence. That's another thing. Personality wise, there's a confidence that comes, and that's tied to our community. It's tied to the music that we make. It's tied to our confidence in our cultures and the pride we have in our cultures. All of these things are attractive to the opposite race, to the opposite sex. When they see someone who is proud of their culture and they're strong and they're confident and they have their own way of speaking and their own way of presenting themselves, that's all very attractive. Now, obviously, a lot of the stuff I'm going to say today, some of it is going to be subjective, but I'm going to try to back up as much with studies as possible. So what you find, and this happens globally, by the way, it's not restricted to any particular country. Wherever Black people go, they, particularly amongst the men, they tend to dictate the culture. So if you come to the UK, we have this language called MLE. Okay, it's called multicultural London English, and it shouldn't be called that. It should be called Black English, because that's exactly what it is. It's how Black people speak. Okay, it's our slang. It's our slang that we've developed in London as Black people for decades now. And the reason it's now called multicultural London English is because all of the other races have co-opted it. Arabs speak like that, Indians speak like that, and white people speak like that. Essentially, all youth now speak like that, and it's not restricted to London. They speak like that in Leeds, Birmingham, Liverpool, everywhere. All of the youth speak like black people. Okay, that's the kind of impact that places black people or black men in this regard at the apex of masculinity, and that masculinity then plays itself out in terms of our attractiveness. Okay, now I could argue also this is also why other cultures are seen as less attractive, but I'm not going to, because I'm not here to disparage other cultures, but there is a direct correlation between, you know, how pervasive your culture is, how proud you are of your culture, and how attractive you're perceived by the opposite sex. But the one thing we can agree on, and we're not going to argue about, is black men are frequently rated as the most attractive in several large-scale studies. That's what it gave to me as the first bullet point. Now, if you're not willing to accept my word for it, I will take you to one of those studies so that we can essentially understand that this isn't something that I'm just saying to you. This is something that is supported by the data, if I can find it. Bear with me. Here we go. So here's a study done by Michael Lewis. It's published in Elsevier, which is a published academic journal. Okay, and this was published in 2011. So let me just read to you the headline. Okay. Abstract. Previous research suggested that perceived attractiveness and personality are affected by the race, with such that white faces are more attractive but less masculine than black faces. Such studies, however, have been based on very small stimulus sets. The current study investigated perceived attractiveness and personality for 600 black, white, and mixed race faces. Many of the investigated personality traits were correlated with race when rated by white participants. Attractiveness specifically, let me just quickly highlight this, was greater for black male faces than white male faces and among mixed race faces. Now, I'm not pulling these studies out preferentially, guys. Once again, I showed you what I searched. You're welcome to do the search yourself. You will find that the studies tend to correlate with black men being the most attractive. Now, I have to be obviously transparent about the fact that many of these studies will say the reverse when it comes to women. So they'll say that black women are seen as the least attractive. However, this needs to be taken with a pinch of salt, because if you look at attractiveness amongst women, okay, so I'm just talking purely about aesthetic attractiveness, what you'll find is that the black female aesthetic has been co-opted. So just like the black male aesthetic is being co-opted in many places such as America and London and, you know, Caribbean, wherever else, everyone dresses like black men now. Everyone carries black male culture. Everyone carries black male style. The same thing has happened with the women, where the physical aesthetic, which has become, which is seen as the most attractive globally, are the features that naturally lie with black women. Okay, this can be everything from prominent cheekbones, prominent zygomatic, that protruding cheekbone, that's a black aesthetic. Full lips, once again, we all agree that's a black aesthetic. Dark skin, with women, you know, very much preferring to be heavily tanned, that's another black aesthetic. And women going to the gym to basically sculpt their bodies in the form of black women. And if you don't believe that's the case, let's just be totally honest. If all women, if gyms got outlawed tomorrow and for the next 10 years no one could go to gyms, and everyone just had to, you know, be satisfied with the physical form that was most normal to them, whose body would most resemble the gym aesthetic that most women are trying to reach right now? I think everybody, regardless of your race, who's watching this, playback or live, will agree it's black females. Black females naturally have the larger posterior. Black females naturally have the more toned and muscular arms, kind of like slim, muscular, toned arms and squarer shoulders. All of these aesthetics that people are going to the gym to train for are the ones that tend to come naturally with the black aesthetic. Now, this might be attractive to some people, but it's important that I lay this groundwork work out, because he's arguing something where it's one of these cases where people are saying, don't believe your lying eyes. You know, he's gone out here and he's made a video about black people being seen as ugly, and yet we have an entire female beauty industry built on the black female aesthetic, and we have multiple studies and entire kind of like socio-cultural norms of many societies built on modeling the black male aesthetic. So you can't gaslight us and then turn around and say, well, no one finds you attractive. That's complete and utter bullshit, and I think you know that. So anyway, let's get started with this video. That was just a little kind of introduction before we cook him fully. So why do other races find black people least attractive? Let's hear what he has to say here. Notice no citation. By the way, guys, let me know if you heard that. Click 1 if did you hear that audio okay? Let me know before I carry on. I did just play it, so if you didn't hear anything, then I'm gonna have to do a reload. Okay, Kieran said he didn't hear it. Okay, let me do a reload. I did this yesterday. This is so annoying. Let's hope this comes through this time. No sound, cool. All right, no worries, guys. I'm doing a reload. Let's hope this comes through this time. Boom. Audio. I'm sure I did this already, but okay, I'm gonna bring it back and I'm gonna let it play, and I'm gonna need your ones in the chat like usual, okay?
Races, black people, in the eyes of other races, black people are often considered less attractive compared to white people.
Okay, so large claim made there. I hope you heard it. Let me know in the chat, 1 or 2. It was playing 1. Okay, great. No citation. Okay, you said you heard it, but it's low. I can't help the volume. Okay, maybe my mic's a bit high. Sorry, I'll move my mic back a little bit. Turn your system up, I'm moving my mic back a bit because I can't help the volume, I don't think. Let me check actually. Oh no, you're right. Let me turn this up. That should help. That should help now. That should help. All right. So you notice it's a habit of his. There'll be no citation, and you can look through I looked through the video. I looked through the description. There's no citations anywhere. So everything that he says here, you just got to take his word for it, and you can't take his word for it because he lies constantly. But let's carry on.
When a black person dates outside their race, they tend to choose a white partner in about 70% of cases. East Asians find black people the least attractive, followed by Indians and South Asians. Then,
so once again, this is another period in this video where he makes multiple claims and doesn't back any of them up with a citation. Okay. He's just said East Asians find black people least attractive, followed by South Asian, this, that, and the other. And he's given you an order, but he hasn't told you. He hasn't even put a name on the screen of the study or the year or anything where he got this from. So you can't verify. You just have to take his word for it that this is true. And I couldn't find the study where he found this.
Southeast Asians before Westerners. In this video, I aim to explore why East Asians and Asia as a whole tend to view black people as the least attractive. First,
now, to be very clear, there's a reason why he's focused on Asians, because the reason he's focused on East Asians, and yet his video is called "Why Do Other Races Find Black People Least Attractive?" and "Why Do Other Races Find Black People So Ugly?" is because he's focusing on the single demographic that he could find where black people do have the least favorable mating, or whatever it is, we have the least favorable rate of cohabiting, miscegenation, whatever you want to call it. Okay, East Asians is definitely where black people are the least. Now, East Asians don't really date outside of East Asians other than dating white people. This is also something he'll not touch on. It's important to note that when it comes to East Asians, they greatly prefer white people. The evidence even suggests that they prefer white people to their own. Okay, so their preference above everything is to date a white person. Okay, now there's lots of reasons that feed into this, but what shouldn't be concluded is that their reason for liking white people is because they really hate black people, which is kind of where he leads. It's like, what he doesn't touch on the fact that they also almost never date South Asians. In fact, that's a link that's almost not described anywhere. Okay, so you won't find that, you know, a Japanese person marrying an Indian. That's actually less common than them marrying black people, but he won't talk about that. He'll talk about the ones, he'll make it sound like it's something that's limited to anti-blackness. Now, I could tell you all this, but I can also show you a study that proves this. Okay, so I'm going to show you a study that actually proves this, so that you know that I'm just not cherry picking what I'm saying to you guys, because there are studies that actually already have confirmed all of this. So I'm going to just quickly click on this study over here. I think it's this one, cross-cultural. Make sure I got the right one. This one. No, this is not it. Sorry, let me get this right. I thought it was this one. Cross-cultural. No, that's not it. It's this one. Okay, so let me just quickly close this down and give you the name of this study, because this is really important. Okay, so this study is called A Facial Attractiveness Account of Gender Asymmetries in Interracial Marriage. And I'm just going to pull out a few stats here. I'm going to try not to dwell on this too long, because I know I can get very technical with this stuff, guys. But it's important that we communicate this fully so you understand how much this guy is full of shit. Okay, so this census, which took place in 2001 and 2006, by the way, it's hard to find these censuses. They're not done very often, which is why some of them are coming up with old dates. It's not a case of me cherry picking. This is literally what is available. But here's what's important to know. Okay, so for instance, this shows how the rate at which black men marry white women in the UK. Okay, so we have a 17% black men marrying white women, and 13% of white women, of white women marrying black men. Of black women marrying white men. Okay, so 17% of black men marry white women, 13% of black women marrying white men in the UK. Now, straight away, some of you are going to say, well, that sounds quite high. That's like 1/6 and 1/8 or something like that. Yeah, that's a large part of the population. And when you goes to the reverse, it's only 0.15% of of white men marrying black women, and 0.24% of white women marrying black men. Now, there's a reason for that discrepancy, guys. Okay, let me paint this for you very, very clearly. The reason for that discrepancy, he's painted it as though, although he didn't give you statistics, but he'll look at something like this and he'll paint it as though, oh, look, we prefer them much more than they prefer us. No, the discrepancy exists because of population size. That's it. Okay, the only reason this large discrepancy exists is because of population size. Black people make up 3% of the UK population. So even if 100% of black men, or black people, I should say, married white people, in other words, you exhausted the entire black population with, miscegenation, so to speak. Yeah, even if that happened, that would only affect white people to the tune of like 4%. It would be 100% for black people, and it would be 4% for white people, because after all of the white people are exhausted, there's still a whole bunch of them left over. And this is the same case in the UK as it is in the US. It's not a sign of preference. Oh, well, you marry us 5 times more than we marry you. No, it doesn't work that way. It's just simply because we have a smaller population. If there was 10 people, 10 black people in the country, and one of them married a white person, that would be 10% of the black population marrying a white person. Okay, and it would be too small to measure the other way around. So the fact that this shouldn't need explaining, but this needs explaining to idiots like him, because they'll draw on data like this and go, oh, well, it means this. Now, there's a reason I brought this up. Okay, there's a very important reason to brought this up. That I brought this up. I want to go to the Chinese now, okay, because this was proven. I made a point about Far East Asians not preferring their own and preferring to marry outside, particularly white people. They like to marry white at a quite high rate. So let me show you this. If you look at Chinese to white, so Chinese men marry white females 10% of the time, okay, in the UK. But if you go to women, Chinese women marry white men 23% of the time, 24% of the time, 24% of the time. So a quarter of Chinese women who find themselves in the UK end up with white men. So what this shows is not that they really hate black people, okay? It shows that they really like to marry white people. Okay, it's called marrying up in their culture. And this really feeds into a deeper issue of self-hate, which I've kind of touched on in previous videos about the Far East Asia community. And I don't think they would lie about it. You can see it in anime where all of the characters appear to be white, even though they are a clearly Asian population. You can see it in the bands, you can see it in the K-pop bands, and all of the people that are famous. They put excessively white makeup on their face. They normally dye their hair blonde. Everything is built around the white aesthetic. Now, in this video, he sees that as something to glorify. He's like, oh, well, look, they love white people, but they don't like you, you dirty black man. They don't like you, you dirty African. It's like, no, they clearly have an issue with their skin color. They clearly have an issue with their natural aesthetic. They clearly have an issue with their hair, and they have an issue with their eyes. They have issues as a culture of self-hate that they need to work through. This same statistic can be seen in America as well. 17% of Asian women marrying white men. 17% of Asian women marrying white men. Okay, so this is an issue of clearly where they project themselves, project whiteness as being something better than themselves. They prefer to marry, in these circumstances, white men at a much higher rate, as much as possible, than their own men. That's proven by the data. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with you guys, because he's made this entire study based on the East Asia community without ever touching on this data, this important data, which shows you that they marry white people at alarmingly high rates. He's missed that out completely, because he just wants it to be, he wants you to perceive it as black people ugly, black people stupid, black people inferior. But I'm sorry, the studies don't support you. The studies say, and actually here's another study. Okay, I showed you one. Here's a second study. Okay, also by Michael B. Lewis. Is this the same one? No, sorry, I wanted to show you a second study. It was here. Okay, so we have multiple studies. In fact, let's just move on. I'm going to let the video continue playing.
East and South Asian cultures place a high value on pale or white skin, often seen as the ideal of beauty. As we all know, black African
Sorry, I don't know why it's loading like that. Yeah, bring it back. I think I'm paying the internet price at the moment in the house. I might have to reload this. How far are we in? 38 seconds. I'm going to click reload and hope for the best.
In the eyes of other races, black people are...
No, I'm not going to listen to you talk again. I'm just going to skip ahead and hope for the best. Okay. Let's go and hope for the best.
Firstly, East and South Asian cultures place a high value on pale or white skin, often seen as the ideal of beauty.
So straight away there, once again, he's highlighted that fact, but missing the fact that many of them don't have pale white skin. Don't get me wrong, you can get some Japanese people that are very light, but a lot of them are, you know, a more creamier yellowy tone. So this is an issue of self-hate within the community where their actual skin tone is not preference. It's a much lighter tone that they often seek. Okay, that's an issue within their community. Okay, that's not a good thing. You shouldn't be lauding that or using that as a, you know, something to club black people over their head with, like you're trying to do in this video.
As we all know, black Africans are in short supply in that branch of nature's endowment. For instance, around 60% of Korean women are willing to date a white person.
Black men are in short supply. I don't understand what he meant there. What did what did he mean there? Let me go back because I didn't understand the premise of his argument there.
Black Africans are in short supply in that branch of nature's endowment. For instance,
that branch of, oh, okay, so he's talking about, he talks like an idiot. Sorry, so he's talking about black people not having pale skin. As we all know, black people are in short supply in that area of nature's endowment. Why would you first of all call pale skin an endowment when it's clearly recessive? Okay, sorry, not to be like, oh, I'm better than you, but it's recessive. It's a mutation. Okay, light skin, pale skin is a mutation, and it's a recessive mutation. So the only people who you could call endowed in terms of skin color would be dark-skinned people. They are endowed with melanin. Okay, you only need to do one thing to have pale skin, and that's to strip melanin away. Okay, it's not that difficult. So you're already, your language is already kind of like telling on you, showing how biased you are. So, okay, black people aren't white people was his argument there. Okay, let's carry on.
Around 60% of Korean women are willing to date a white person, while only 0.2% would consider dating a black person.
And it's not just date, it's marry as well. Okay, so clearly the issue here lies with Korean people not being satisfied with their own aesthetic and glorifying and pedestalizing the white aesthetic. In fact, you can see it. Have many of you seen the new Netflix show, sorry, not show, film, this thing is called K-pop Demon Hunter? My kids love it, so that's why I know the name of it. Yeah, so K-pop Demon Hunter is this Korean film, or, you know, kind of animation thing, and it won loads of Oscars. And when it won its Oscar the other day, the director got up on stage, the woman who kind of like put it all together, and she's a Korean woman, and she was like, I'm so proud that you know, our people and our girls can see girls that look like them, and the whole world's watching them. And I'm like, girls that look like them? Girls that look like them? What are you talking about? Let me just quickly show you what the main characters that she's talking about, yeah, look like, and you tell me if you think these girls look Korean or not. Yes, I do know the name of the band, guys, so before you try and come and hate on me, let me click this. So let me open this in a new tab so you can see it clearly. So this is the band, yeah? You tell me if you think this looks like 3 Korean girls, because I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but I just see 3 white girls. Yeah, that's what I see. That's what I see, 3 white girls. Yeah, I don't see 3 Korean girls. I don't think any Korean girls are going, oh, look at them, they look like me. I see 3 white girls. Okay, and this is very typical of that culture, the culture that he is so proud of, you know, because these people won't date black people. Oh, black people are unattractive. Well, they clearly don't find themselves attractive. Okay, and someone just highlighted a very important point that I didn't want to go on to: skin bleaching in Asia. Now, I don't want this to end up being a shit on Asia session. I don't want to do that, okay? Because I could talk about that. I've talked about extensively before about how Fair and Lovely and Olay sell more skin bleaching products in Asia than they do, you know, multiple times more than they do in Africa. And it's endemic in the populations of Asia to bleach their skin. But I don't want to shit on Asia. This is not about me doing that. I just wanted to kind of share the fact that what he's saying, once again, is very, very easily falsifiable. Okay. And it's easily kind of like, these shouldn't be things that you're aspiring to or using to criticize any other population. The fact that they hate themselves and love white people is not, I'm sure many of them actually are quite ashamed of that, you know?
Among Chinese people, the numbers are slightly higher. 70% of Chinese women would be open to dating a white person, whereas only 0.5 would be willing to date a black person.
So what? So, and by the way, these are unverified claims as well. Once again, he's giving you his charts, his sources himself, Bantu page. That's his source. He's watermarked this chart, Bantu page. That's a wonderful chart. Thank you very much for your Bantu page chart. But which study did you get this from? You haven't given us a name. You haven't given us a year. You haven't given us a date. You could have just literally pulled these statistics out of your butt. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And I would actually lean or venture towards the ideal that he has made this up, because that would be informed. He makes up a lot of crap that is not supported. Okay. But anyway, let's carry on.
The situation is even less favorable for black people when it comes to dating Indian.
Who cares? Once again, the argument that I would make is he keeps saying it's less favorable for black people, but is black and white the only races? What's the rate of Chinese people, like I said, marrying Indians? How many Chinese people will be willing to marry Indians? What's the rate of Chinese people marrying Hispanics? What's the rate of Chinese people marrying Arabs? Notice how you haven't mentioned any of these. You've just focused on white, which clearly is the supergroup when it comes to East Asian preferences, and then juxtaposed it with black, but you haven't substantiated that, or why that's important, or why we should care. Why should we care? You've framed your entire study around East Asians for that specific purpose, because this huge gap appears, but you haven't even got the you know, the integrity to show the fullness of the study that you found, because you know it's probably going to contradict you in many, many ways.
Indians, as they simply find dark skin unacceptable. However, black people do have more success among white women, with approximately 30% expressing no issue with dating a black partner.
White women where? Once again, he's just throwing out the statistic. 30% of white women open to date black women. White women where? White American women, white British women, white Western Europeans, white Eastern Europeans, white Australians. Where's the study from? What date was it taken from? What is the purpose of showing this? Once again, okay? Once again.
Here comes the paradox. 8 out of 10 black African women indicate that they would have no problem dating white men.
This guy is so ridiculous. He does realize that in every single developing nation, a very large proportion of the people will prefer the men from more developed economically nations. So particularly white people who are seen as the apex globally, economically. So go to any poor nation, okay? For instance, Thailand, I could say, for instance, where not only the women, but the young boys as well provide, you know, want to provide favors, let's just leave it at that, for the white population, who they see as a economic advantage. Okay. Oh, would you like to date a rich person or a poor person? Oh, I don't know. Let me think about it for a minute. What an absolute moron.
5 out of 10 feel the same way about dating Chinese and Korean men, while only 2 out of 10 express the same willingness regarding Indian men.
And what is the point of that statistic? Okay, so they'll half of them would say they date Chinese men, and 1/5 of them said they would date Indian men. What is the point of these statistics? Where are you going with this, man? Let me give a quick shout out to someone who's left a donation. I think I've got a couple actually that I missed out there. First of all, Dregger said, "Here's something for the Vodafone bill." Actually, it's Virgin I'm with at the moment, and yeah, I need to change something a bit faster. Shout out to, thank you very much for your $2 donation, and shout out to Kieran, who said, "Anecdotal, but black military who get stationed in Asia almost always have positive interactions with Asians, especially black men and Asian women." Yes. Once again, he's focused on Far East Asia, okay, because the numbers will climb exponentially when you move towards Southeastern Asia. They climb exponentially. And by the way, he's making up half of these statistics anyway, so how would you even know which ones are worth listening to? He doesn't know what he's talking about. But thank you very much for that $5 donation. Much appreciated. Let's carry on. If you can stomach it. Sorry, guys, I know this is hard to watch, listening to this absolute buffoon talk about stuff of which he has no idea.
In countries such as Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, and throughout the Arab world, most women prefer not to date black men. In contrast, they are open to dating white or Hispanic men.
Okay, so what do a lot of those countries that he just listed have in common? Okay, would you say that a majority of the Thai population, for instance, are economically sound? Do you think a Thailand boy when he's growing up, it's his dream to be the, you know, to provide favors to greasy, fat, you know, tourists, yeah, from the West? Do you think that's what he wants? He wants to put a wig on and do that? No, he does that because there's an economic advantage, or I should say economic reward, and there's, you know, the groundwork has been laid. So he's probably never traveled, you know, that far, but most people in this stream will know that, you know, Thailand women, for instance, preferring white men and marrying white men, that's actually a very, very, very common coupling that you find. But you'll find that there's a trend with the white men that marry women from Thailand. Okay, they tend to be, I worked with a few. Okay, they tend to be incredibly unattractive and incredibly unsuccessful with their women, or their local women, or women in general. They can't get women. But one thing they do have is they have a job in the UK. Okay, they have a job in the UK and they have a house in the UK. So what do? You go to Thailand and you get your Thai bride. Everybody knows this. Indonesia is the same. Yeah, you go to these nations where the people are poor and they're destitute, and your white skin will afford you, you know, to find a beautiful young woman, yeah, who needs a partner and who will give you children. Okay, and it's not just low level. You see that right up to the level of MPs. In fact, there's a very famous bit of footage where this MP is speaking, and his child runs in on a stroller, okay, and interviews his, and interrupts the interview that he's given, and it's gone viral. I could probably find it, but I can't move to do it right now on this live. Yeah, and his wife runs in, and his wife, for all intents and purposes, when I first saw it, I thought it was the maid, and then he found out afterwards it was his wife. Yeah, so he's got a little half Chinese baby, and his wife is obviously one of these Thai brides, because he just looks like one of those men who wouldn't be able to get a woman other than virtually buying one. You might as well say they go out and they buy their brides. Okay, so he's using that data. Yeah, he's using that data. All of these people prefer what? Why do these people prefer white men? It's not rocket science. Yeah, it's not rocket science. Any idiot knows why these nations prefer white men. It's because they are economically the most viable people. It's because it's been ingrained in their society to see white as superior. It's not to do, there's no argument about attractiveness. The study's been done. I've showed you multiple studies. You saw the summary. Multiple studies all agree that black men, when we look at things objectively, are seen as the most attractive. We also know that black women must be the most attractive because all other women are copying their aesthetic. So we have black women's aesthetic being copied. We have black men being confirmed in the studies to be most attractive. But obviously, the difficulty with black men marrying outside of the race or marrying other women comes from the fact that there is, you know, an economic hurdle, and there's ingrained racism a lot of the time, or ingrained, I wouldn't say racism, let me correct that. There's ingrained prejudice amongst many of these societies where they see you marrying black or getting with a black person as marrying downwards. That's just, it's not rocket science. There's no, why are black people ugly? There's no ugly to be said here. You might see yourself as ugly. I'm not going to make a judgment on whether or not I think you're ugly. I'll leave other people to say that. But I don't think I'm ugly. I don't think anyone in my family. I think I've had it confirmed on multiple occasions that I'm not ugly. Yeah, and you know, I will tell you quite clearly, as many people in the chat will tell you, black people do not struggle. You might struggle because you have self-hate issues. Okay. So people can smell that. They can smell the lack of confidence. It's obvious when you travel to other nations and you're just grateful to be there. Hi, I am Bantu City Diaries, and they're gonna smell your desperation. You're gonna you reek of it. You reek of someone who needs their approval. That's the most unattractive thing in the world. Yeah, you're like Officer Tatum, you know, just like you know, people are gonna look at you and look down at you. They can smell the fact that you dream of having a white woman. Okay, that's not my story, and it's not the story of many black people. Okay, this is the issue that you have, my brother. Yeah.
Why are black men or black people in general the least desired? Is it
false? Once again, he's not going to verify that. That's a false. He's got no study to support that, and I've already showed a study proving that this is the opposite.
Racism? Are we considered unattractive, or do we have a reputation for being poor parents or people? And
stop saying we. That's you. That's a you issue, not a me issue. Okay, and none of that is true. Okay, certainly not an issue in my family.
Answer lies somewhere within these many questions. In Chinese, Korean, and to some extent Japanese cultures, relationships and marriages are heavily influenced by Confucian's tradition. These expectations often include having a committed partner who serves as a traditional provider, demonstrates financial stability, and is willing to invest in the relationship.
So this is a ridiculous argument now. So this is where he's really trying to make it work. Oh, you know, it's not to do with the fact that they have ingrained worship of white people. It's nothing to do with ingrained self-hate. It's nothing to do with ingrained prejudices that have come as a result of, you know, centuries of conditioning by colonial powers, and then, you know, colonial partnerships. It's got nothing to do any of that. It's the Confucius law, okay, which white people do not adhere to. See, this is the biggest problem you've got. You've literally made a claim, and the very people that you're claiming, yeah, should, you know, adhere to Confucianism. Confucianism is not a part of white society at all. So you're making this claim, oh yeah, it's Confucian, and it's actually so stupid, because actually black African countries are actually show more adherence to the very things that you're talking about here. You're much more likely in black African countries to have a single male working to support the entire family. It's still viable in African nations that the man works and supports the entire family. Okay. It's very African family units are very traditional. Now he's going to produce some false data later saying that's not the case, but it's still the case, and I don't know where he's getting his data from. So he's saying that black people don't fit traditional Confucian values, but neither do white Western cultures. In fact, to a lesser degree, you find in white Western cultures. Now, what you'll find he will try and do is he's going to try and project white Western norms and white Western sensibilities onto the black cultures and onto Africa, but the data doesn't support him. He's a consummate liar, and I'm going to show that soon.
Marriages are viewed as unions between two families with a strong emphasis on family.
And who brings family into marriages? More modern white Westerners who have the very concept of care homes, yeah, dumping your mother in a care home is a white Western one. Care homes don't exist in most places in Africa, not because we don't care for the elderly, but because people know who is responsible for dealing with elderly relatives. When you marry in Africa, yeah, and this is most African cultures, it's certainly the case in Yoruba culture and Igbo culture, you marry into the families. Okay, we still have the engagement. The engagement in African culture is still seen as more important than the wedding. The wedding is really a Western import. Okay, the idea of we're gonna have a wedding in Africa or in Yoruba, it's the engagement. The engagement part is the important part where you meet the family and you prostrate yourself, and we have all of these different cultures. Obviously, they are different, but this is how it works in Africa. So he's literally gaslighting the black community, showing us what's important to us, and then telling us it's not important to us. And actually, this is the reason why they prefer white people. But white people, you don't marry into families, you marry an individual. Yeah, it's very normal to, you know, elope in all of these ideas. They're all white Western ideas. So this is the ultimate gaslighting that he's doing here. This guy is such a disingenuous liar. He's such a disingenuous liar, because he would struggle to pick out a single wedding in Africa where both families were not heavily involved and that didn't have an engagement party where, you know, where, you know, you have the dowry and you have all of these are norms in Africa, norms, and they cross every socio-economic strata. This guy is such a liar. It's unbelievable. So he's taken our culture, which does actually mirror the Asian culture, and he's saying we don't have it. We're just all debaucherous, and the only people that have it are white people, which is why they get along. What a disingenuous piece of shit. This guy, I can't stand him.
Oriented values. Wives are typically expected to maintain a close, respectful, and sometimes subordinate relationship with their in-laws.
Once again, mirrored in Africa. Once again, that is entirely mirrored in Africa. What is wrong with this guy?
Additional expectations may include having a stable career, being debt-free, and coming from a reputable family. These qualities are not typical of Black Africans.
He just said that. He just literally listed a typical African wedding and marriage. Well, a typical African engagement and marriage. Like typical. All of those things that are expected in many African cultures. I can't speak for them all, but I'm talking specifically about the ones that I know. Yeah, he's showing here, this is a Igbo wedding, I believe. Well, the beads say Igbo, the head wrap says Yoruba. Someone tell me what's on the screen right now. But he's being entirely disrespectful because I'm sure he hasn't got permission to put these people's picture up whilst he's disparaging African culture. What an entire piece of shit. So if Africans don't, you know, you don't marry into the family, you don't do all of that. So what do Africans do? This guy is the worst human being, because he knows everything he's saying is a lie at this point. There's no way. I'm a flipping Western Niger. I'm not even like true Niger. I'm a Western Nigerian. Even I know what he's saying right now is complete and utter bullshit. I'm so disturbed about the fact that he has people leaving, you know, comments of support in the chat. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. He's literally just lying, like he's like as natural as he breathes. What a horrible human being, man.
Or even Black Westerners. Profanity, public nudity, and high body count are generally not accepted. As well.
Public nudity, is that sister? Public nudity. What, black, we're just walking around naked, yeah? Is that what we're doing? Yeah, black people are just walking around naked in London. Yeah. What is he talking about? Do you see he's not supporting a single thing he says here. He doesn't support a single thing he says here. This guy is literally bonkers, like literally bonkers.
well as casual sexual behavior. Sexual matters are typically kept private. There is a strong emphasis on modesty, social order, and the procreative purpose of sex. Nudity and revealing clothing are largely viewed as taboo.
So wait a second. So all women in Africa are just Ashawo, according to this man. Yeah. All women, yeah, are Ashawo. So by the way, do you remember he mentioned Thailand? Yeah, in his list of Asian nations. Yeah. How about, can you show me the equivalent of the red district in Thailand or the multiple red districts in Thailand in any African nation? Can you show me an example of ladyboys, you know, lined up from one top of the one street to the other in any African nation? Can you show me these entire, you know, counties, yeah, full of, you know, houses of debauchery? Can you show me, please? Because you're making claims here about the morality of Black people, in particular Africans you're mentioning. I can give you real examples of that kind of debauchery being present in the very culture that you're claiming is superior to ours. And you can't give me examples of where you can find that in Africa. Yes, you can find a street here and a street there, and nightclubs and a few Asho war. I'm not saying they're non-existent, but compare in Thailand, where you have literally entire towns and cities made up of that industry. And you're acting as though we should be, oh no, we don't have Thai people don't want to marry Black people. Yeah, it's because they all, you know, the majority, well, I wouldn't say a majority, but a large proportion of the population is putting themselves out sexually for the needs of Western visitors. That's provable. I don't understand what is wrong with this guy. His brain is not functioning properly.
In contrast, these are not qualities that Black Africans or Black Westerners possess. Black Africans.
Don't talk to me about what Black Africans and what Black Westerners possess, because you can't speak for all of us. I would backhand you in your face if you said that to me. So just be very careful about the way you talk about our people and our communities, because you don't speak for us, you speak for yourself.
Africans and Black Americans, Black British, Black Canadians, Black Brazilians, and all the Blacks are generally.
All the Blacks! Sorry. He just listed every Black community. Black British, Black American, Black this, Black that. All the Blacks. Let's see what this vile human being is about to say about all the Blacks.
Promiscuous, dressing.
We're all promiscuous, guys. Every single one of us. Well,
in revealing outfits.
Once again, let's go back to his pictures, yeah, because they should prove everything that he's saying, yeah, since we're all this, yeah.
Possess Black Africans.
So that picture, she doesn't look like she's dressed in a revealing outfit.
And Black Americans.
They look like they're pretty professional, and I can't see any revealing outfits.
Black British, Black Canadian.
They all seem dressed pretty well and no revealing outfits. By the way, he hasn't had any permission from any of these people, so I hope they sue him. If anyone sees anyone they know in any of these pictures, please sue Bantu City Diaries. Sue him, because this is defamation of character. So I want to make sure that you guys, if you see an image of anyone you know, or anyone you can trace back, or anyone you see on social media, tell them to sue him for defamation of character, because he's using these images and saying very defamatory things about Black people.
Canadians, Black Brazilians, and
do they look like they're dressed in any way that's, you know,
all the Blacks are generally promiscuous, dressing in revealing outfits, and are loud and boisterous. This doesn't fit in the Confucian tradition of East.
However you want to spin it, the Confucian tradition of East Asia is far more compatible with native African culture than it is with Western culture. You're like just literally trying to gaslight the entire Black community. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Asia. However, it must be asked, white people don't necessarily tick the Confucian box. So why are they open to dating white people but not Blacks? Easy, their skin is pale.
Okay, so oh my God, this is like brain nauseating. I'm getting a nosebleed for listening to this piece of shit. So he went through that entire thing to say that Black people are not compatible with the Confucian culture, even though they are. But let's just say, for the sake of what he's saying, all black people dress scantily, we're all promiscuous, none of us have any form of decency, we all have low IQs, all the other things that he believes about black people. And then he got to the end of that tirade, realized that white people also don't fit Confucian culture, and then went on to say, well, the reason is their skin is pale. So what was the point in talking about Confucian culture? What are you talking about? So you're basically saying that they're not compatible with either of us, but they'll choose white people. Like, this guy is nauseatingly stupid, like nauseatingly dishonest. It's unbelievable.
And their countries were role models for East Asian countries. East Asians admire white people since they were poor and continue to view them positively today. So with white, they are willing to break all the boundaries. It's a fact. Black is...
Oh my God. So your Confucian culture thing is just ridiculous, because if they're willing to break it, then it was entirely irrelevant to begin with, because you can't prove it. You haven't found a group where you can say, I can prove it. So all you've proved is that it's not cultural, okay? And it's linked to the fact that white people are socioeconomically more advantaged. That alone doesn't allow you to bash black people over the head, which is why you raised the Confucian argument. You just needed something to bash black people with, because if you're just gone straight with the fact that, well, they prefer white people because white people are more economically advantaged, that would be the end of the video. No one would argue with that, but you wouldn't be able to promote your why are black people so ugly thing. You have to try and make black people feel bad about something. Yeah, it's because you guys you're too promiscuous. But then again, it's got nothing to do with promiscuity, because white people are promiscuous as well. So it's because you're too dark. What? This guy's an absolute moron. Sad black person on the screen, by the way.
Associated with being poor, and Africans haven't helped the black cause one bit anyway. Instead, Africa has made it even harder for every black Westerner to overcome the stigma when they travel outside the West into Asia and East Asian territories, as they share the same skin color. For centuries,
I'm getting a headache at this point. I'm trying. I will get to the end, guys. Flipping heck. Wow. Okay, so black people have made it hard. Africans have made it harder by being poor. Okay, is basically his argument there. Black people have made it harder for black people who want to travel by being poor. Made it harder for what? To marry and date Asians. Is that your argument? So black people have made it harder to marry and date Asians because they're poor, and no one wants to be married to a poor person. This doesn't prove your premise. Okay, nothing that you're saying proves your premise. Now you're just arguing random points about literally why, you know, there's a less rate of interaction between two groups, but it doesn't prove your premise about them being unattractive. It doesn't prove any such thing. In fact, the studies suggest that Asian women find black men very attractive, and I could show you quite a few clips that support that.
Centuries, black skin has often been associated with African poverty, underdevelopment, tribal life, and a lack of intelligence. As a result,
it's not just black skin. Like I mentioned before, East Asians are incredibly racist towards Southeast Asians, and they probably, like I said, marry them at a lesser rate than they marry black people. It's absolutely seen as marrying downwards. They have a very vicious internalized caste system, particularly in China, Japan, Korea. Very, very vicious internalized caste system that's based on white being the ideal. Once again, you could have just done the study on this. It's not like a big secret, you know.
World has formed a perception of black people that extends beyond physical appearance, but is influenced by the culture and etiquette of black Africans.
Poverty is not a culture, you stupid moron. Okay, you've just literally said the entire thing is linked to poverty, and now you've moved on to say it's linked to the culture of black Africans. But poverty is not a culture. Okay, poverty is something normally that is Often, I wouldn't say normally, often is imposed, but certainly is inherited a lot of the time. Okay, you find a lot of nations in the Middle East currently impoverished who were not impoverished previously, but have been impoverished through war and conflict. Most of Africa, as you know, is impoverished as a result of colonialism, neo-colonialism, corruption, etc., poor governance. But either which way, poverty is not culture. So you can't turn around and say, oh yeah, you made poor cultural choices. The poverty has got nothing to do with the culture.
This perception has, in many cases, negatively impacted the attractiveness of Black people, both in Africa and among African Americans. People in East Asia or Asian continent are slowly getting to know Black people.
Did you see that clip? He shows a clip of some random white girl giving her Black boyfriend a dirty lick. It's obviously a stock clip, but seriously, is this how desperate you are?
They historically viewed dark skin as representing the lower class, while white skin or pale skin has been associated with the upper class. Unfortunately, Black people happen to naturally have the same skin color that fits the definition of ugliness to Asians.
Well, you've just imposed ugliness once again there. Okay, you've used the word ugly. Didn't need to use it there. You literally just said there's a, historic thing, which by the way I could falsify. By the way, that's not actually true. Okay, if you look into Asian culture, it's not necessarily a case of the dark-skinned people were seen as, like he said, poor. I don't know where he got that from. Once again, he doesn't cite anything in terms of sources. He has got nothing to back this up, so he'll just say, well, because I said so. Dark skin was seen as poor in Asian culture. It's like, actually, no, you need to do your reading. Okay, you need to understand the relationship between Far East Asians and their dark skin ancestors, of which there used to be many, and obviously there are a lot fewer now, but that's a whole nother thing. I'm not going to go into that right now, but the point being, you don't know what that relationship is. You've just assumed it was one that was derogatory, and yet I could show you photos from the 19th century, the mid 19th century, that would completely blow your mind, because you will be confused to see dark-skinned people in very prominent positions in Asian society.
For Koreans and Japanese, the issue may not stem from hatred or outright racism, but rather a lack of attraction, which is a subjective matter.
Well, he's just confusing himself. So now he's gone back to argue that it's a lack of attraction, but that has already been falsified. It's got nothing to do with attraction, and it's got everything to do with upward mobility. That's already been proven. Okay, there's cultural stigma that's linked with marrying downwards, and it's you always want to marry at the level you are or marry upwards, which is why they reject their own. I showed you the study already. A lot of Far Eastern people will prefer to marry at a much higher rate than other ethnic minorities, white. Okay, when they come into a situation, when they come into contact with white people, women are somewhere between 20 and 25% marrying white, Far East Asian women. Okay, I showed you that study. Chinese women at 25% in the UK, at 20% in America. That's a much higher rate than any other ethnic minority. Okay, so there's a preference at play there, and it comes to a cultural, ideal of whiteness being the most attractive thing. Once again, it has got nothing to do with them disliking Black people, because once again, if you was to do the comparison between Southeast Asians and East Asians, you might be surprised to find that they actually prefer to marry Black people than other Southeast Asians. And if you don't believe me, talk to actual East Asians about the racism between East Asians and Southeast Asians. South Asians are seen literally as the bottom of the barrel. You'll never find an East Asian marrying a South Asian, but you won't talk about that because it's not beneficial to the propaganda you're spewing.
People are entitled to their preference. and there is nothing inherently wrong with that. Conversely, white people are different. They are naturally adventurous and open-minded. This is why most black people who date outside their race date white people. Interracial marriages are relatively common in Europe and North America, but remain quite rare in many parts of East Asia. Interracial marriages between white and black people have a higher rate of divorce compared to marriages among white couples. Additionally, most relationships between black and non-black people do not result in marriage.
Okay, so once again, he's not providing citations for any of this. And it'll be much easier for me to refute his crap if he actually provided citations. But everything that he's providing is anecdotal. Okay, so if he was to go through these claims one by one, which I think we should do, okay, this is all just anecdotal. None of this is proof of anything. Okay, it's just him saying stuff that sounds like they're loosely related and they're not. So the first claim he makes is
different. They are naturally adventurous and open-minded.
White people are naturally adventurous and open-minded. No, you stupid absolute moron. White people aren't actually that adventurous. They're just the majority in the West. So if you go to America, white people are the majority there. If you go to Europe, white people are the majority there. So the ethnic group that is going to be most mixed with different racial groups is going to be the domestic group that make up the majority. Okay, they are going to be the people that are, in terms of interracial dating, they are going to be always the first most dated with, or the first most courted or mated with group, because they are there in full number. It doesn't take any level of logic to understand that. I showed you the rates and I explained. Let me quickly go back again, because this might have gone over, moron boy's head. So let's just quickly go back and explain the chart that I showed. This chart, okay? This chart is not showing, oh, well, great, black men, look, 17% of black men marry white women, but only, 0.24% of white women marry black men. The difference between those two figures is the population being so much greater of white women than it is of black men. That's the only difference that's being shown here. So morons like this cannot understand a simple statistics like that. He thinks, oh, well, white people, oh my God, they're so adventurous. They will date the Chinese people and black people, and they will date black people more than other. Like, you stupid idiot. You stupid idiot. Like you're so dumb. Yeah, they are the majority. Okay, that's why you'll find white people with this and white people with that. It's the same reason that you find Nigerians mixed with everyone across the world. Nigerians number in the hundreds of millions, okay? Much more than any other ethnicity in Africa. That's why we are in more places, and that's why we interracially marry much more than other groups, because there's just loads of us. This guy's so dumb.
This is why most black people who date outside their race date white people. Interracial marriages are relatively common in Europe and North America, but remain quite rare in many parts of East Asia. Interracial marriages between white and black...
I feel like I need to explain that as well, because he doesn't understand certain things. The data suggests that not being married in East Asia, actually across all of Asia, not being married is the taboo. Okay, so the data suggests that if you're a woman, you will just get married by hook or by crook. I think the figure is somewhere around 80-20. So women are 80% married, 20% unmarried. I think less actually in East Asia. It might be down to like 15%. I will show you later because I have these figures. Okay, if you go to the West, the figure is more like 50-50. Okay, 50% married, 50% unmarried. If you go to Nigeria, it's like 60-40, 60% married, 40% unmarried. So in Asia, the taboo is to not be married. So everyone needs to get married there. Now, obviously, the pressure that that will place on those societies, particularly when they have massive, consider that they have massive populations as well. The pressure that places on society is for people to find mates, okay? And they'll find mates by hook or by crook within their own society, okay? They have to get married. It's a taboo to not get married. In the West, it's neither here nor there. Okay, you get married, you don't get married, no one really cares. There's no like stigma or taboo link to it. And like I said, the rate is like 50-50, and I'll show you that statistic later. In Africa, the stigma is to not have children. Okay, that's where the stigma lies. And once again, I will show you the data to support this. So as soon as an African woman gets married, she's having kids almost immediately, and she'll be having kids pretty much for as long as she's fertile. And Black women, African women are much more fertile. Okay, that's once again proven by the data as well. So the stigma in Africa is married women must be producing children. Okay, the stigma in Asia is to not be married. The stigma in the West is there is no stigma. Be married, don't be married. Have kids, don't have kids. But this is what the data supports. You have to understand that before you make claims about why interracial marriages work the way they do. You have to understand that. Okay, Far Eastern women must get married. It's very much stigmatized for them not to be married.
White skin or pale skin has been associated with the upper class. Unfortunately, to their preferences, and there is nothing in which a 20-year-old African woman has had of divorce compared to marriages among white couples. Additionally, most relationships between Black and non-Black people do not result in marriage. On average,
once again, unsupported, he's making this stuff up. So right from here on in, guys, the rule is everything he says, don't take any of it seriously because he doesn't support any of it. Doesn't support any of it.
A 20-year-old African woman has had 8 sexual partners.
Unsupported. And I couldn't find any study supporting this. He's made this up. This is just a lie. He probably got it off 4chan, which is probably where he hangs out to get his ideas for his next video.
While an Asian woman of the same age has had about 3.
Based where did you get the study for that? A 20-year-old, did you say African woman as well? Average 20-year-old African woman has had 8 partners, and an Asian woman has had 3 partners. Where did he get this from? Where did he get this from? What's his source? There's no source here. Bantu page is his source. This guy is a disingenuous moron.
8 sexual partners, while an Asian woman of the same age has had about 3. The tendency towards promiscuity appears to be higher among Black people.
That's not true. And once again, the data supports that. I'll be showing you in a moment when he's going to go and tell his biggest lie in a moment.
They are American, African, European, or South American compared to East Asians, Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, or Arabs. Many non-Black who date Black do so out of a fetishized perception that Black women are more accessible for casual sex based on societal stereotypes. Ultimately, this situation is not solely rooted in racism, but rather in cultural representation.
So it's not racism, it's cultural representation. And he's flipping here because now he's saying actually Black people are attractive because lots of people do want to date them, but it's just fetishization. If we weren't attractive, then why would they be fetishized towards them? Nothing he says here is coherent. It's just a list. It's just a litany of negative propaganda to say about the Black community. That's all he's doing here.
That have not effectively showcased their strengths or themselves to the world properly. There is a pervasive image of Black culture as poor, uneducated, loud, dirty, aggressive, and lacking emotional intelligence and ambition.
So there's a pervasive culture or Black culture of doing all of these things, and yet Black culture is mirrored globally. You have entire industries built on them. You're literally talking about Far East Asians. Anybody tell me what Far East Asian popular culture is not based on Black culture? Name me one. Name me one thing in terms of culturally that the youth in Japan have cooked up that is not based on copying Black culture. Name me one thing in Korea that the youth have cooked up that is not based on Black culture. Literally the entire world is mirroring black culture. The entire world is mirroring black culture. And yet you say that the pervasive image of black culture is poor, uneducated, loud, dirty, aggressive, and lacking emotional intelligence and ambition. So why is everyone trying to emulate it? Why is it seen as the apex? Why is it seen as the very precipice of what is seen as that is what I want to be? Why is everyone trying their best to emulate black culture if it is so deficient in so many ways? Nothing that you're saying makes sense. Everything that I'm saying, I can back up. It's there. It's easy to back up. Okay. Everybody knows it to be true. So your attempt to denigrate black culture as being this deficient thing doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing that you're saying makes sense. You're literally just saying the worst things that you can think about black people, but not backing it up with any source. It's literally just your opinion that you're saying with authority, and you know you're going to get away with it. Shout out to Dregger. He said, listen to this guy, is causing me physical harm. I'm actually getting an aneurysm. I thought I could get through this, but my brain's beginning to hurt. Let's try and get
these qualities can undermine the foundation.
Random footage of black school kids fighting because why?
Of relationships and marriages. Many women are deterred by.
What did that have to do with anything? Honestly, what did that footage have to do with anything?
Men who appear to lack these attributes. Even among white women, those over 35 are less likely to date black men compared to those under 25.
Wait a second. So this guy is just a font of stupidity. Let's read this quote.
35 are less likely to date black men compared to those under 20.
Under 25. What has that got to do with anything? Tell me how that's relevant. He literally said, even among white women, those over 35 are less likely to date black men compared with those under 25. So what does that prove? What's the point that he's trying to prove there? Because they're over 35, maybe black men over 35 are less likely to date white women over 35 for obvious reasons. Did that ever cross your mind? Like, why is that even relevant? Okay, women over 35. Let's be let's be honest. At that point, I think the man becomes the dominant, the dominant factor at that age. Like what are we even talking about here? Is he just see the word less likely and think, oh, this sounds denigrating. This sounds like this proves nothing. It proves absolutely nothing. How about white women over 35 are less likely to date? Full stop. How about that? White women over 35 are less likely to date. Yeah, that tracks. So they're less likely to date black people, white people, Chinese people, because they're just going on less dates at that age. Like, what are we even doing at this point? This guy's a flipping lunatic.
Examining the dynamics of attraction.
look at this picture. This guy's so out of pocket. Oh, I'm trying to think, is this stock or is this AI generated? I don't know, but this is just out of pocket, man. This is just out. Look at this image, man. The woman's like, ew. So clearly this is a stranger proposing to someone. What is this dude actually doing? Oh my gosh, he's hilarious.
From the perspective of black Africans reveals concerning trends.
So what was the point of that picture? Like, this guy just doing anything.
From the perspective of black Africans.
So this is Michael Blackson. He's a comedian. I don't know if this is his partner or what, but what is his point here? Because they look like they're happy, or this looks like a happy picture. I don't know if this is his partner or if this is just a friend, but why did he put this up? Is his point here that Michael Blackson is unattractive or something like that, and she's much prettier than him? He's a celebrity, yeah. He's a comedian, yeah. He has means, yeah, which is, people with means normally can find quite attractive women. But what is the point of putting this picture up? You can kind of see the mentality of this guy by just the random pictures that he put up. None of them make any sense. Is this your proof that black men are unattractive? Now, I'm not judging Michael Blackson, but is this your proof? I'm sure he'll say it himself. He's got skits about him being an unattractive person. I'm sure he's very happy with that, with his diamond encrusted necklace. I'm sure he's fine with the way he looks. What is your point, man? What a weird guy. Let me give a couple. Have I shouted those out? Yeah. Let me give a couple shout outs. Shout out to the third Timothy, $5. He said, they're doing a lot now. We should love each other through everything they throw at us. Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing, you can't let this guy, we need to just laugh at this guy. We can definitely not let morons like this guy get you down. Okay. The people who are on his stream, the people who are subscribed to him, they're gonna hate black people anyway. They are mentally, they're mentally deranged. Remember, racism is a mental illness. So a lot of these people need therapy. They need help. They are mentally, like, everything about them is falling apart. When people have to resort to racism, it means your life is miserable because literally you hate people you've never met before in your life. So they're going to have those problems regardless. They're going to exist regardless. The one thing we can't do is let morons like this get us down, because you can see there's no substance to anything that he says. Literally no substance, no support, no citations, no nothing. Just his random opinion, which he's doing to grift money from this very hateful community that he's fostered. Sorry, let me...
Africans reveals concerning trends. A white man in Africa is living in heaven. Black African...
A white man in Africa is living in heaven. And he's got footage of the guy, this very pink man throwing the African, just apart from the melanoma, apart from the cutaneous melanoma, which will likely contract if he walks out like that for more than half an hour. Yes, very much so in heaven. Very much so in heaven.
African women often show a preference for white men, even if those white men are overweight in comparison to a fit black men of equal or even greater status.
That is a load of bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. He's just said black women in Africa will pick a fat, poor white man over a rich, fit black man. That's literally what he's just said there. He said, like, they'll pick a white man, even if he's poorer. Like, I get that they'll pick, many poor people, as they do in Thailand and a lot of these desperate nations. Yes, they will pick the white foreigner because they can see an economic way out of their current position. Yeah, that's normal. Okay, no one's gonna get offended to that. But then he's tried to add the fact, well, they'll pick a white man, even if the white man is broke and the black man is rich and the black man is good looking. What are you talking about, mate? What are you talking about, mate? Seriously. Like, you just talking absolute hogwash. Yeah, you just made that up. Look at the vindictiveness in his eyes as he says these lies. Has it happened to him? I think maybe it's happened to him. I think this happened to him. I think it's happened to him. Yeah, he's been at the club and his fat white mate has got all the girls. And he's like, I've got more money than him. He's broke now. How dare you? And I'm sorry, I don't like you. I like your pink friend now. Oh, this guy's a consummate loser, man. I'm telling you. This guy.
I like the bobo. I think I prefer white men.
Similarly,
he found a piece of footage of a woman saying she likes white men. That's it. That's conclusive. You don't need to provide a study now to support your assertions. Don't need to provide anything else. You have a footage of, out of context, of one woman saying, I think I prefer white men. She could have been saying, I prefer white men to whales, because literally you show us 3 seconds of footage. But hey, let's just trust you, bro. We trust you. Carry on.
Indian and Arab men in black Africa tend to attract more attention from black women than black men.
That's complete and utter bullshit. See, now he's just making stuff up. He's saying Indian men attract more attention from black women than black men. Like, look, I already know that's a lie. So this is now, he doesn't feel like, because he doesn't need to verify anything, he could say anything at this point. He could literally say elephants and giraffe. Black women have been seen mating with elephants and giraffe to get away from their husbands. He could literally just say anything. There's nothing, he's providing no sources. There's nothing, that he's just literally saying the most out of pocket thing. Literally anything. There's nothing here. There's no substance to this. This guy's an absolute liar and a moron. Shout out to Ignatius Moore, who's just sent out a super sticker. I appreciate you, sir. He's laughing. I'm glad I'm giving you some joke here, man. Like I said, laugh at this guy because he doesn't deserve anything else than our laughter. He's an absolute moron. And I hope he's watching this. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is. I hope you're in the chat, you Bantu sellout. I'm going to destroy your entire life.
Men of similar or higher status. This raises questions about racial biases, suggesting that East Asians and Indians may not necessarily be racist, given that black women in Africa often prefer white partners.
Look at this image. Where's he getting this footage from? Where is he getting this footage from? Why is she so miserable? Like, what's that? What? He's so dirty, man.
The cultural perception in Africa seems to be that lighter skin is viewed as more attractive to black women. The lighter your skin, even in Africa, the more attractive black people in Africa find.
That's called colorism, okay? And colorism is very, very old, and colorism actually doesn't move in the linear binary way that people think it does. It actually moves in waves. Particularly in the West, we're finding that amongst males, darker skin, after literally decades of light-skinned men literally being at the apex, we're now actually seeing dark-skinned men overtake light-skinned men in terms of females' attractiveness perception. Now, this is not old. It's a few years old, and it might not last very long. But that's because colorism within the black community is not linear. It certainly moves. It moves in waves, okay? People, light-skinned, dark-skinned, it kind of just moves depending on what kind of tastes and what's being put out in the media, etc., etc. That's certainly not binary. So you're now making a colorism argument. This is a completely different video now, because the point that you're making is that black people come in all shades. Apart from we're not well endowed with the white skin, as you said earlier.
Is there something fundamentally wrong with dark skin?
So now it's the skin. Now it's not black people. He's moved on from there being something fundamentally wrong with black culture, the promiscuity to black people. Now he's moving on to our skin. So now it's not even something we can help. Yeah. First of all, it was like culture. Yeah. And it was like our behavior. And the fact that we were so far from Confucianism, we're promiscuous and we're stupid and we're poor and we're dirty. And now he's moved on from all of those things. He's now moved on to, but black skin itself is a flawed design. What's wrong with dark skin? Like this guy making sure that he covers the entire spectrum of blackness and leaves you with nothing to have pride about. Everything is up to be shot down by this piece of shit.
Historically, behaviors such as dressing provocatively, having multiple partners, being sexually promiscuous, and having children outside of marriage were stigmatized in many black African countries during the 70s. In contrast,
they still are.
The percentage of single-parent household is notably low in countries like India at 5%, Korea 6.5%, and Japan 12%. In comparison, Botswana has a staggering 65%, South Africa 60%, Kenya 27%, and both the DR Congo and Zimbabwe around 25%.
Lies. Complete and utter lies. He's made this up. Okay. Either made it up or he got it from one of his 4chan channels where these people just make up stuff and he's taking it for granted. I looked up these figures and I looked over and over and over again. There are multiple studies, none of which support him. none of which support this. This is an absolute lie and a fabrication. Let's go through a couple because we're going to really cook this guy now because he just literally made this stuff up. So I'm going to leave this on the screen so we can refer back to it. Okay. First of all, I found this study. Now, this study, unfortunately, doesn't show the African nations for comparison, but this study says quite clearly that the US has the highest rate of single parent families. This is share of children living with a single parent. Okay, so we have 25%, 21%. So 20, sorry, you won't be able to see this. Let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to make this full screen, guys. Make this full screen so you can see it all. Okay, cool. That's better. So you can see this. 25% United States, 21% United Kingdom, 19% Denmark, Canada, 18% Denmark, and so on. Now, the problem I had with this study, I found, and this was share of children living with a single parent, and children is anything aged 0 to 17 years living with a single parent. And this is from ourworldindata.org. Okay, so that one was good, but it didn't provide me with the comparison that I needed. Now, the next study that I found, single parent rates by country. Okay, this one did include some African nations. Okay, and you'll find that some African nations and black nations, as he likes to say, would rate quite highly, nowhere near the figures that he's purported there. So this is single parent rates by country. And by the way, you have to take into account what they're putting in these tables. So we do have at the top some quite high rates for Kenya. Well, let me quickly scroll down. Sao Tome, Kenya 12%, Rwanda 11%. Well, these aren't much higher than United States at 9%. But here's what's really, really interesting. If we scroll right down, the very nation that he's in, that he likes to deride so much, Nigeria is down at 3%. It's nearly at the very bottom. So we have African nations, black nations, sub-Saharan nations, Guinea-Bissau down at 2%, Mali down at 1%. Multiple black nations having the lowest rates, at the very lowest rates, multiple times lower than the ones at the top. Okay, now this is just one study. The most substantial and the most, from what I've seen out of all of these studies, the most conclusive one that I could find literally tells the exact opposite of what he's just communicated, and that's this one. Feel free to look this up by yourself, by the way. It's not the most easy data to find, but I found all of the conclusive studies about this. So this study was done in 2019, and this study is done by Pew Research Center, and it reads: the US has the world's highest rate of children living in single parent households. The US, okay? And it doesn't just say that. It shows you the data. It comes with the receipts. So if I scroll down, you can see here, this blue and light blue color means you have the lowest rate. Yeah, the lowest rate. And you'll see that this blue and light blue color is quite common across the African continent. Not to mention this rate here, even 6 to 15% is most of Central Africa. Okay, the US, this solid orange, Russia 18%, Britain, the UK, France, and the US, much higher rates. Almost a quarter of US children living in single parent homes, more than in any other country. The UK has 21%. France has 16%. Russia has 18%. The US has 23%. Nigeria is between 3 and 6.8%, according to this study. Now, this is easily the most comprehensive of the studies that I looked at. Okay, the rates in Africa are reflective of what's seen in Far East Asia. Africa has moderate rates. Okay, very, very moderate rates. So what he's talking about there is complete and utter fabrication. Feel free to look up these studies by yourself. I'll post them to the live stream afterwards. These are available. If you're going to make claims like the ones he just made, you need to back them up with data. He has just claimed these figures. These figures cannot be seen anywhere. These figures he's just saying cannot be seen anywhere. I've looked at multiple studies, and these figures cannot be seen anywhere. Now, I do want to highlight one more study to you guys, okay? And if you look at it initially and you don't understand what you're seeing, it actually, you might think, okay, well, that's quite concerning, but I will explain to you what you're seeing in this study. So this one, I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see this properly, because this is actually quite an important one. So this one shows sub-Saharan Africa, and this is a study of women's family status. So this is important to know. This is not the percentage of children in single parents households. This is women's family status. So you have to understand the difference here. And women can be one of four statuses. They can either be single with children in the household, married with children in the household, single, no children in the household, or married, no children in the household. And if you look at this, you will find that sub-Saharan African women are the highest rate of single with children in the household. Now, I have to be very, very clear. This is not what you initially think it is. And the study supports this. I'm going to quickly explain what this is. This is simply the fact that in sub-Saharan Africa, the women are much more likely to get married young. And as soon as they're married, they will start producing children. And they will produce children throughout. And you're classified as having children in the household if you have anyone that's between the age of 0 and 17 years old. Now, this is where another statistic comes in, which is really important for you to see. You see here, married, no children in the household. Okay. Sub-Saharan women have the lowest rate of that. That's only 6%. So what does that tell you? That tells you if you're a Black African woman and you're married, there's a 94% chance that you're going to have kids. Okay. That is much higher than any other group. Okay. Even South and East Asians who get entirely married, okay, so like being not married is a stigma. They have only 2/3 of their women having kids. Black women have 94% of their women bearing children. So what this essentially means is that women will continue having kids until they're grown and move out. And what will happen often is the father might pass away because of the mortality rates before one of his kids has reached the full age of maturation. And this actually happened to my mum. My mum's dad died when she was 16 years old. So her mum would have been on this in spite of her mum being married to my granddad for multiple years. He also was polygamous, by the way, but that's another story. But the point is, she was married to him for ages. But then when he died, my mum was still a teenager. And that's quite common. So that's what makes this figure high, because anyone who's got kids, even if they were previously married, if the partner dies, then they will be classified as single with children in the household. So that's the reason why that figure is up at 32%, because basically all married women instantly start producing children. And they produce them for the entirety of their life. That just seems to be the trend across many African nations. You can see the rate of fertility, and this is one of the things they're scared of. 94% of married women producing children. That's much higher than any other nation. Now, this where also, the reason I wanted to show you this chart, because this is quite interesting. This is where also learned that East Asians, obviously not being married is a stigma. Because if we have a look at the two single columns, single with children in household or single no children in household, if you look at East Asians, those two add up to only 17%, so 14 and 3. So that means East Asians are 83%. Sorry, it took me a while to work that out. 83% chance of being married. So in other words, not being married and being East Asian is very much a taboo. All East Asian women get married. Now, if you look at in comparison, other nations, like let's look at the world, for instance, we have that down at 30-something%. But if you look in the Western nations, Western Europe, or the US and Canada, we have it over 50%. So over 50% of people aren't married in the US and Canada. Okay. So you're seeing that there's a massive difference between the trends, between the trends and habits of the different populations. But the one thing that's very, very important in the African nations is producing children, and women will do it as soon as they get married, literally as soon as they get married. And that's the only thing that causes that figure to move up. And if you don't believe me, you're not taking my word for it. It says quite clearly here, it's got nothing to do with promiscuity. So I can read here where it talks about sub-Saharan women. So the high proportion of single mothers in sub-Saharan Africa can largely be attributed to high fertility rates. They produce more kids on the whole, and young average ages of populations. So that means there's a higher mortality rate. The region's women tend to have a shorter life expectancy and more children on average than women in most other regions. And so they spend more of their lives raising children. Okay, so you see it there in black and white. He would see those statistics and say, oh, they're just promiscuous, they're just dirty, they do this, they do that. It's like, no, it's none of those things. Okay, it's none of those things. They're producing more children because they're more fertile, and as soon as they get married, they'll start to produce children. That's what the difference is. Okay, it's a massive difference between the fertility rates of black women and the other groups. Okay, and you can see that here in black and white. So anyway, I wanted to show you that. You can look at that, but the point being is I've shown you this chart showing that the US has the world's highest rate of children living in single parent households. It also shows that Africa is quite modest in this regard. It's quite modest. The only nation that has rates comparable to the West being Western Europe and the US is Kenya at 16%, but the rest, and Sao Tome, which we saw in that other chart. Okay, so Kenya and Sao Tome, but the rest of Africa is very modest, including Nigeria, which we saw from the other chart is down at about 3%. So he's making this idea that African nations are full of Ashawars who are just sleeping around, and it's not supported by the data. So he's a liar. This is completely falsifiable. You now see multiple studies proving that he's lying about this.
These statistics suggest that the values and social expectations in Black African societies may be less stringent than those in white and East Asian cultures, because even in white countries,
lies. Okay, so you guys, we've just seen that's lies. He's lying. Okay, US has the worst, Europe, UK, okay, Russia following closely, Sub-Saharan Africa, Black Africa, nowhere near those rates. So you're lying.
there are less single parent household than in Africa. Consequently,
lies again. Lying. Okay, not supporting with any data, unable to support it. And if you ask him to support it, I guarantee you he'll just have a link to a Reddit forum because he's a moron.
there are many areas in which Black people may fall short of the expectations held by white and East Asians. This leads to a growing reluctance among these groups to date Black people. Skin color alone poses a significant barrier, but even if that were overlooked, other unmet
skin color, he didn't prove anything about skin color there. Do you notice that? He said he was going to talk about skin color, didn't prove a single point about skin color. He went back to talking about behavior. So he said skin color, then did an entire tirade about behavior, produced very false, made up, pseudo, not even pseudoscientific, just made up evidence that was refuted by the multiple studies that I just showed you, and then went back to saying skin color. This guy's just an idiot.
expectations might still impede potential relationships. If you think we're wrong, if you think we missed anything, please leave them in the comment section below. And also,
well, you can see I think you're wrong and you missed loads of things. So that brings us to the end of this video. Guys, you've seen the data. Okay, I've shown you multiple studies proving that this guy is just lying. We've also just discussed how devoid of common sense and of everything, of cultures, of human interaction this guy is. Literally, this is just a hack job where he's just basically lined up as many insults about the Black community as possible. He's an idiot. So let's have a look at what this idiot's community has to say. Okay, let's have a look at it. Today, I have blocked over 1,000 people. This is not a channel of racial slurs against any race, such as blah, 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 blah. I don't know what those mean. Or derogatory terms for white or Asian people are tolerated. This behavior is unacceptable. Oh, shut the hell up. My man just came out with the most derogatory statements about Black people, and now he's trying to play Caped Crusader. Man, shut the hell up, man. So, which begs the question. Let me just read a few comments because it's important. I'm reading these comments so you guys can get an idea of the kind of community this guy fosters, and also the fact that people are buying that tribe. You saw from that, I hope you, well, it's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to think, but I hope you saw that nothing he said was credible. Nothing was supported by any sources. And in fact, where sources were provided, they refuted. They said the exact opposite of what he claimed. Okay. He made the claim that black people were unattractive, but the studies say black people are the most attractive. He's made the claim about Far Eastern people hating black people the most, but all he proved is that they like white people the best. Okay. He made the claim that black people are promiscuous. And in fact, the data suggested that the Western nations are the most promiscuous. He's made multiple claims. He made claims about the culture of black people being deficient and this and that and the other. And yet the entire world emulates black culture, including the nations that he's lauded in this video of his. So everything that he says literally is falsifiable. There's not a single thing he said in this video that you could hang your hat on. And yet he has an entire community of idiots following him. Someone said, which begs the question, why are they in all the advertisements? This is the typical... This is a typical concern of an alt-right person. Okay, their biggest concern. Our concerns, things like survival. Okay, things like wars going on that shouldn't be going on. Things like our leaders in Africa being toppled unjustly. Okay, things like, you know, being able to get jobs but being denied them for our skin color. Things like being removed from positions as people attack DEI, this, that, and the other. They're concerned. Oh, why are they in all the adverts? Why are there black people on my TV? Oh my God, I have to look at black people on my... Really pathetic people, really pathetic. I think African Americans play a huge role in keeping this stereotype alive. So I think it's probably one of the negative stereotype lies that he mentioned. So yeah, they always hate on African Americans because they see them as superior. That's really what it boils down to. You could give a black person white skin and they will still look black. The physical differences are more than skin color. Yeah. I think most black people would prefer to look black. Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's the thing that you're missing there. Most black people, me included, would prefer to look black. Okay, if I woke up, if it would be a nightmare. And that's not me being horrible. Okay, I respect all the white people who are on the stream. I'm sure many of you are on here, but that would be a literal nightmare for me to wake up white. Yeah. I'm very proud. I'm very, not just proud, I'm actually very attracted to myself. Yeah. I love being black. I love the fact that I am the age I am and look the way that I look. And I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'm telling you right now that I look really good for my age. And that's because black don't crack. Okay. So yeah. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. Well, avoid loud, stupid people like the guy who made this video. Two things we must accept. We are not all alike. Absolutely, we're nothing like. That's clear. Culture matters. This is complete opposite of modern narrative, but it's ultimately a truth we must face. You don't have any culture, though, respectfully. That's why you always hate on black people's culture, because you lack culture. And by the way, I'm saying that specifically to white Americans. I'm sorry, but if you're a white American, you don't have any culture. You don't. Okay, that's why you cling on to being European. Your only culture in America is whiteness, and whiteness is just violence. And that's me being totally practical now. I'm going to say that with a straight face. White people in America have zero culture. Their entire culture is based on being violent to other people who don't deserve it. You don't have any culture. And that's why you try and cling on to your European culture. You're like, oh yeah, I'm part British, part Irish. And it turns out none of you have got a pure lineage to Europe. You're a little bit of Scottish, a little bit of Italian, a little bit of Irish, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You've got no pure lineage. You can't cling on to a single culture. So you have no culture. And that's one of the reasons why you're so vile towards black Americans, is because you're jealous of the fact that they have managed to carve a culture that everybody wants to emulate, but you have no culture. Yeah, that's it. You don't have any culture. Even the music, you're like, oh, well, I love country and western. Yeah, that's black. You stole it from black people. Oh yeah, well, we're cowboys. Yeah, you stole that from black people as well. Oh yeah, but well, what about Madonna? Yeah, black people music. Yeah. Every single music that you listen to, you stole from black people. Everything that you find, you know, interesting as a culture, barbecues, this, and it doesn't matter what it is, you stole it from black people. You have, white Americans have no culture. Post this clip on 4chan, by the way. Yeah, feel free to. White Americans have no culture. They stole their culture from Black America. That's a fact. Tell me I'm wrong. Post up examples of white culture, white American culture in the chat. It doesn't exist. This man fears no topic. I love it. Of course you love it, because he just makes stuff up. He also fears, he seems to also fear logic as much as he fears no topic. It's not the skin color, but culture. Yeah, that's the one thing they always, that's what, Candice Owens, those grifters like that lean on. Oh, yes, it's the culture. They're always talking about the culture being this and the culture being that. The culture that everyone's copying. Yeah, that's what the problem is. At least in the US, the fatigue is reinforced every day. So you can see, I'm not going to read through all the comments, guys. This guy's a moron and he's been debunked. Okay, so you can see here, I just wanted to debunk him. I know it took a bit longer than I was supposed to take, but I did want to give the opportunity to view the studies and show you how much of a liar he is and how much data he makes up. But at this point, I'm very tired. It's a Saturday evening. I'm supposed to be watching a fight with my son, so I'm going to get the heck out of here. Thank you very much. Quick vote of thanks before I disappear. To those of you who've left donations, shout out to Ignatius Moore. You guys are a bit stingy today, I'm not going to lie. The third Timothy, Dregar, Kieran, and Dregar again. I appreciate you. If you appreciate the work that I do and appreciate the studies that I do, guys, this doesn't take a short time. Show your appreciation. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Love you guys all very, very much. I hope that was useful. Share it with someone as well. Let someone see what a lion POS this guy is. Other than that, I'm going to head out. Have a fantastic evening, guys. Take care. Peace.